She was celebrating her birthday alone, until the prince asked to share the cake with her. Before we begin this beautiful period romance story, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love knowing where you're joining me from. The kitchen was never truly silent, not even at that hour. Old wood creaked, the wind pressed against the shutters, the embers in the hearth sighed now and then. Yet compared to the daytime uproar of pots and voices, this was quiet enough to feel almost sacred. Lucia Bianchi slipped through the side door and closed it gently behind her. Her fingers lingered on the handle, as if making certain the world would stay out. She stood still for a moment, letting her eyes adjust to the low light. The big kitchen of the country house was half in darkness. Only one small oil lamp burned near the table, and the faint orange glow of dying coals in the stove. She set the lamp closer to the edge of the long wooden table and pulled out a chair. The room smelled faintly of bread baked earlier, and of soap from the scrubbed floor. Everything was in order, as Signora Rinaldi demanded. Everything clean. Everything ready for tomorrow. Everything utterly indifferent to the fact that it was her birthday. Lucia reached into her apron and placed a little bundle on the table. A crooked, flour-stained cloth. Inside, the treasures she had guarded all week. A bit of coarse sugar, a handful of flour she had told the cook she had spilled, 2 slightly bruised plums, and the smallest knob of butter she had been allowed to scrape from the bottom of a bowl. She unwrapped them with care, as if they were jewels instead of scraps. "You will not cry," she murmured to herself. "You promised you would not cry this year." Her own voice startled her in the quiet. It always did, when no one else was talking over it. She moved quickly with the practiced efficiency of someone used to working under the eyes of others. It did not matter that she was alone now. The habit of speed clung to her. A small earthenware dish, a pinch of this, a handful of that, a drop of milk stolen earlier from a jug. Her hands were sure. She mixed the batter, thinking of nothing at first, only of the texture. Too thick. A little more milk. Too thin. A bit more flour. She smiled to herself when it reached the right consistency. "Donna Rosa would scold me for this," she whispered, "wasting the good Lord's flour on foolishness." But the cook was asleep. And anyway, Lucia thought, it was not waste. It was hope. Hope had to taste of something. Tonight it would taste of sugar and baked plums. She poured the mixture into the dish and slipped it into the small oven, still warm from the bread baked hours before. Not too long, she told herself. Not too hot. She had done this once before, 3 years ago, when her courage had been stronger. That night the cake had burned, and she had eaten the dark edges in the dark, laughing and crying at the same time. She sat at the table and folded her hands, watching the oven door, listening to the faint hiss inside. It was a strange thing to wait for something when no one else knew it was coming. The house upstairs slept. In the guest rooms, the prince and his companions lay in beds far softer than Lucia had ever touched. In the master's wing, doors were locked and curtains drawn. In the servants' quarters, snores rose and fell in narrow rooms crowded with narrow beds. No one missed her. No one had said, "Lucia, what day is it for you?" No one had said, "Are you well? Are you happy?" They had only said, "Be quick. Do not forget the ash bucket. Wipe the boots more carefully next time." She checked the cake, turned the dish with a folded cloth and closed the door again. "Perhaps that is enough," she murmured. "Perhaps not being scolded is all one should expect of life." But the words sounded hollow, even to her. After a while, the little cake was ready. It had risen awkwardly, lopsided, the plums sinking to one side. It did not look like the beautiful cakes she had seen carried into the dining room on silver trays. Yet when she pulled it out and set it on the table, she felt a small satisfaction swelling in her chest. "There," she said softly. "Happy birthday, Lucia." From her pocket, she drew the final treasure, a candle. Just one, a short stump of tallow, saved from being thrown away after a banquet, when the tall candles had been cut down to be melted. She had hidden it for weeks. She pressed it into the center of the cake. It leaned a little, but stayed upright. Then she turned down the lamp until the kitchen fell into a gentler shadow. The candle flame would be brighter that way. Her hands trembled slightly as she lit it. When the wick caught, a thin flame rose, hesitated, then steadied. The light touched her face, her dark eyes, the loosened strands of hair that had escaped her braid. For a moment, she simply watched it, You must make a wish, she told herself. But now that the moment had come, the wish stuck like bread in her throat. All the years behind her paraded past her eyes. The village where she had been born, the parents lost too early, the relatives who had passed her from house to house until she ended up here. The long days, the nights when her back ached and her hands were raw. The times she had sat up in her narrow bed and listened to laughter from far away, wondering what it would be like to be invited into a circle instead of always serving it. Only one wish, she whispered. It must be small or it will not come true. She closed her eyes. I wish, she said softly, that for once someone would see me. Not as a pair of hands, not as a girl who carries buckets. As someone whose birthday matters. Her chest tightened. That was not so small after all. Her eyes stung. She blinked up at the flame and forced a smile, because that was the rule she had given herself. Smile, then blow, then no tears. Happy birthday, she said again to herself like a toast no one else heard. She leaned forward and blew out the candle. The flame vanished in a thread of smoke. The kitchen dimmed. The little cake sat there, strangely solemn. Now eat, she ordered herself gently, before it grows cold. She reached for a knife and cut a piece. The crumb tore, still too hot. A bit of plum rolled away. She laid the slice on a cracked plate and sat down, folding her hands as if at a feast. Buon compleanno, Signorina Bianchi, she said with a little laugh. Honored guest at her own table of one. She took a bite and closed her eyes. The sweetness burst on her tongue, more delicious than it had any right to be. She laughed under her breath. Oh, that is good, she murmured. You clever girl. A tear slipped out anyway, completely disobedient. She brushed it away quickly. You promised, she scolded herself. No crying this year, but another came, and another. She set down the fork and covered her face with both hands. I just wanted someone to say it, she whispered. Only once, just once. Upstairs, Prince Alessandro di Savoia lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. The countryside was quieter than the city. He had known that. He had come for that. He had begged for a few weeks away from the court in Turin, from ministers and letters and the constant talk of railways, taxes, alliances, from his father's patient, heavy gaze, from his mother's careful hints about duty and the future, from the word engagement, which hovered over him like a cloud he had not asked for. He had thought that here, in this old house surrounded by fields and trees, he would sleep. Instead, the silence pressed on his ears. His thoughts would not rest. He rolled onto his side, then onto his back again, then sat up. The moonlight seeped through the curtains, silvering the room. Nothing was wrong. He was safe. He was privileged. He had everything a man could wish for, or so people said. So why did he feel so restless, as if something inside him had not yet found its place? He stood and pulled on a light coat over his nightshirt. The floor was cool under his feet. Maybe a walk along the corridor would calm him. He could not call a servant at such an hour. They had already done too much for him today. Besides, he did not need anything. He only needed to move. He opened his door quietly and stepped into the dim hallway. The lamps were out. Only a distant one burned near the stair landing, its light soft and yellow. The house sighed around him, old and asleep. He walked slowly, hands clasped behind his back. The wooden boards creaked under his weight. In the silence, his mind replayed the Marchese's words from the afternoon. The Contessa Elena is a fine young lady, Your Highness. Educated, well-bred. Her family's support would be invaluable to the crown. In these early years of our kingdom, we must think of the future. Your future. Yes, Alessandro had said, my future. They had spoken of the Contessa as if she were a law, not a person. He had seen her only twice, at a distance, and she had seemed as bored with him as he was with the entire conversation. Yet in every discussion people spoke of when they would marry, not if. He reached the staircase and paused. From below, he thought he saw a faint glow. He frowned. At this hour all lamps should be out. The servants were strict about saving oil. Perhaps someone had fallen ill. Perhaps the butler was still awake, checking locks. Curiosity nudged him. He descended the stairs quietly, following the thin trail of light along the wall. It led him toward the kitchens. As he neared the doorway, he heard something else. A small sound, like a laugh strangled in a sob. He slowed, then moved closer, his hand hovering near the doorframe. He looked in. At first he saw only the table, the earthenware dish, the dim lamp. Then he saw her, a young woman, seated with her back half turned to him, in a plain dark dress and white apron. Her shoulders were thin, tense. Her hands covered her face. A little plate with a half-eaten slice of cake sat before her. The rest of the cake waited in the center of the table with a single unlit candle leaning atop it. He hesitated, unsure if he should intrude. But then she lowered her hands, revealing wet cheeks and eyes still bright with moisture, and something in his chest tightened. She looked so young. Not a child. Not quite. Perhaps 20. Perhaps less. Yet there was a tiredness in the way she sat, as if she had carried more years than belonged to her. He realized he knew her face. He had seen her in the hallways, carrying buckets, lifting trays. She was one of the many who moved around him without ever meeting his gaze, like shadows. He had not known her name. She wiped her face again, took a deep breath and forced a smile at the cake, as if it were a person. "Very well," she said quietly. "We will not be ungrateful. We will celebrate properly." Her voice shook, but she tried to sound cheerful. She cut another piece of cake and placed it on the plate opposite hers, then laughed at herself. "You see?" she said to the empty chair. "You are not alone. There. 2 slices. It counts." Alessandro felt his throat tighten. Before he could stop himself, he knocked lightly on the doorframe. She jumped to her feet so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Who is there?" she gasped. He stepped into the light. "Forgive me," he said at once. "I did not mean to frighten you." Her eyes widened. She stared at him as if he had appeared out of thin air. "Your Highness," she breathed, then dropped into a clumsy curtsy. I beg your pardon. I did not hear you." "There is nothing to pardon," he said, raising a hand slightly. "I should be the one apologizing. I came down without announcing myself." She straightened slowly, still clutching the edge of the chair. Her cheeks were suddenly very pale. The traces of tears shone on her skin, but she turned her face a little, as if hoping the shadows would hide them. "I will go at once, sir," she said quickly. "The kitchen was... I only needed to... I shall leave everything clean." "Wait," he said. Before he had quite decided what he meant to say, she froze. He stepped closer, not too close, stopping on the other side of the table. Now he could see the little cake more clearly. It was not graceful, but it looked warm and good. The candle stump leaning in the center told the rest of the story. "You have baked," he observed. "Yes, Your Highness." Her hands twisted the cloth of her apron. It was nothing. Just a small thing. "At this hour?" His voice stayed gentle. "Is it for someone?" She glanced down at the cake, then at him, then away again. "No, sir," she said quickly. "I mean, yes, it was for the kitchen. Only a little trial. I wanted to see if I could make it without troubling Donna Rosa. I did not wish to disturb anyone." The lie stumbled over itself. He heard it. She heard that he heard it. He smiled faintly. "And the second slice?" he asked, nodding toward the plate opposite hers. "Is that also for the kitchen?" Her fingers tightened on the apron. For a moment she seemed torn between inventing another excuse and giving up entirely. At last she drew a breath. "It was for a guest," she admitted, her eyes fixed on the table. I thought perhaps if I pretended, it would feel less foolish." "A guest," he repeated softly. Her shoulders lifted and fell. "No one came," she said, attempting a laugh. "Which is reasonable, Your Highness. It is late, and I am only the maid who scrubs the pans." The way she said it made his chest ache. "And yet," he said slowly, "I seem to have arrived just in time to claim the empty chair." She looked up, startled. "You, sir?" "Unless you forbid me," he replied. Her eyes widened further. "I could not," she faltered. "Your Highness, you should not be in this cold kitchen. The servant's place is not... you will catch a chill, and there is nothing here fit to serve you. I ought to fetch something proper from the pantry and... Lucia," he said. She stopped. He had seen her name on the servants' list earlier in the week, when the steward had gone through the staff with him. Lucia Bianchi. He had not thought then that he would use the name. If it surprised her that he knew it, she did not say so, but the color rose in her cheeks. "Yes, Your Highness," she whispered. "Sit," he said, gently but firmly. "If anyone fetches anything, it will be me. I have hands. I can pour water from a jug." Her mouth opened, closed. The idea of a prince pouring anything for himself seemed to bewilder her more than his presence. "I am on duty," she murmured. "At this hour?" "To whom?" he asked. "To the cake." A small sound escaped her, half nervous laugh, half protest. She sank slowly back into her chair, as if her knees refused to hold her any longer. He pulled out the opposite chair and sat as well, facing her across the table, the cake between them like a strange centerpiece. Up close, he could see that her eyes were dark and bright, with the trace of tears still there. He lifted the candle with care. "It seems I am late," he said. "Did I miss the celebration?" She looked at the unlit wick and then at him. "There was no celebration, sir," she said softly. "Only habit. I have always baked something small when I could, for myself. It passes the time. So it is a special day," he insisted. "You told the truth without meaning to." Her lips pressed together. He waited. Finally, she whispered, "It is my birthday, Your Highness." He felt a quiet anger stir in him, not at her, but at the thought that the house had gone on as usual today, that no one had said a word. "And no one else knows?" he asked. She shook her head, smiling as if it were nothing. "It is not important," she said. "We all have so much work. It would be selfish to ask anyone to remember." "It is not selfish to wish to be remembered," he replied. "It is human." She blinked at the word. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he cleared his throat. "Well, since I have intruded upon this noble feast," he said lightly, "may I at least ask to share in it? It seems unfair that you should eat alone when a seat was prepared for a guest." Her eyes flew to his. "You wish to eat this?" she asked, horrified. "But, Your Highness, it is not. It is not fit for you. It is only scraps. I had to steal the sugar with lies. If Signora Rinaldi knew, she would throw me out. The plums are old. The butter is almost nothing." "It smells excellent," he said. She flushed. "You are kind," she murmured. "I am honest," he answered. "May I?" She hesitated, then pushed the second plate toward him with trembling fingers. "If it displeases you, sir, you must not feel obliged to finish it," she said. "You may spit it in your napkin. I shall pretend not to see." "That is a very generous permission," he said dryly. His humor coaxed a real smile from her. She bit her lip to hide it, but it stayed. He took the slice of cake and tasted it. It was simple, sweet, still warm. The plum was tangy. It was better than many of the elaborate pastries he had eaten at court, perhaps because it carried something his had never had. The clear intention of comfort. "This," he said with conviction, "is very good, Lucia." She looked at him as if he had said something impossible. "You mean that?" she asked. "I do," he replied. "If I did not, I would be very ashamed to be a prince and not know how to tell the truth about cake." She laughed then, a small startled sound that seemed to surprise her as much as him. "Thank you, Your Highness," she said. "You are indulgent." "For tonight," he said. "Tomorrow you may discover that I am terrible and disagreeable." "Tomorrow I shall not see you," she replied, then caught herself. I mean, of course I shall see you if you require anything, sir." "Ah," he said softly. "Then perhaps I must require something, at least a glass of water. It would be a pity to never see the baker of this cake again." She looked down, flustered. "You must not tease me, sir," she whispered. "My life is very small. I know my place. It is safer that way." He studied her. "Is it?" he asked. She did not answer. Her fingers traced the edge of her plate. He changed the subject gently. "Tell me," he said, "how old are you today?" 18, she said at once. "No, 19. I forget sometimes." 19, he repeated. "When I was 19, I thought I would have all the time in the world to make choices. Now I find that many of them are made for me." She tilted her head. "By your parents?" she asked. "By parents? By ministers? By maps?" he said. "By lines on paper that declare one region and another. We call ourselves a kingdom now, united at last. But it seems to me that the more the land joins, the less room there is inside a man's own life." She listened intently. "I do not understand much of maps," she admitted. But I know what it is to have one's life decided by others." "Do you?" he asked, intrigued. She nodded. "They sent me here when I was 14, she said. "My aunt said there was work, and work is better than hunger, so I came. And since then each day has been much like the last. I do not complain, I am grateful. But sometimes when I blow out the candle, I remind myself that I had a name before I had an apron." He watched her quietly. "What was your life like before?" he asked. "Before the apron." She shrugged. "There were chickens," she said. "A hill. A little house with a roof that leaked. My father sang sometimes. My mother scolded him for it, but she smiled while she scolded. They are gone now. The house is gone, only I remain, and the apron, it is enough." "It does not sound like enough," he said. She glanced at him, startled by the certainty in his tone. "You speak as if you envy me," she said. "You who have everything." "I have many things," he corrected, "but not everything. I do not have the freedom to bake a cake in the middle of the night for myself, in peace." "You could ask the cook to bake you anything at any hour," she protested. "That is not the same," he replied. She seemed to consider that. "I suppose it is not," she admitted. "If I asked anyone to bake for me, they would laugh." "Then they are fools," he said. Her eyes flew to his again. "You must not say such things, sir," she whispered. "If anyone heard—" He smiled. "Do not worry. I will keep my opinion of them a secret. It will be my birthday gift to you." She stared at him. "You remembered," she said. "How could I forget?" he asked. "It is the reason I am eating the best cake in the house." Her eyes softened. "No one has ever said those words to me," she confessed. "Which words?" he asked. "Happy birthday," she said quietly. He felt the words settle in his chest like a stone. He set down his fork. "Then allow me to correct that injustice at once," he said. "Lucia Bianchi, happy birthday." For a second she did not react. Then her lips trembled. "Thank you, Your Highness," she whispered. They sat in silence for a while, eating cake. The kitchen felt less empty. At last she said, almost shyly, "Why did you come down, sir, if I may ask? Did you smell the cake?" He laughed. "No," he said. "I could not sleep. I saw the light." "And you followed it?" she asked. "Yes, and you found only a foolish maid and a crooked cake," she said with a self-conscious smile. "I found a light that did not belong to me," he said softly. "Sometimes that is worth following." She flushed again, unsure what to do with his words. Outside, the wind passed along the walls. The house creaked. Then, from the corridor beyond the open kitchen door, a board gave a sharp, unmistakable groan under someone's weight. Lucia froze, her eyes darting past the prince's shoulder toward the shadowed doorway, just in time to see a dark shape slip away into the darkness beyond. Someone had seen them. Lucia did not sleep much after the shadow passed the doorway. She tried. She climbed the small back staircase when the prince finally rose from the table and wished her good night, with a warmth in his voice that lingered in her chest long after his steps faded. She washed the plates, blew out the lamp, and slipped to the narrow room she shared with another maid. But in the dark her mind would not rest. Who had seen them? Had it been a maid on her way to the privy? A footman returning late from the stables, Signora Rinaldi herself? Her roommate, Teresa, turned over in the bed opposite hers and muttered something about the cold. Lucia lay rigid, staring at the faint line of moonlight on the ceiling. "You are a fool," she told herself. "You should never have baked the cake. You should never have let him sit." Yet another voice answered, stubborn and soft. He was kind. He said, "Happy birthday." Towards dawn, she drifted into a thin sleep. It did not last long. The bell rang early, as always. The day did not care about birthdays or sleepless nights. Lucia forced herself up, pulled on her dress, tied her apron. Teresa was already buttoning her own bodice, yawning. "You look worse than the chimney," Teresa remarked, half amused. "Did you stay up scrubbing the floor with your eyelashes?" Lucia tried to smile. "Something like that," she said. She did not mention the cake. She did not mention the prince. The memory felt too fragile, too easily bruised. They hurried downstairs with the other maids. The corridor buzzed with quiet conversation, the low murmur of people not quite awake yet. Lucia immediately felt something was different. People glanced at her, then away. The glances were not the usual vague, passing kind. They were sharp, measuring, curious. She swallowed. In the scullery, A footman named Carlo was rinsing boots in a tub. He lifted his head as she passed, his eyes traveling over her face. "Up late last night, Lucia?" he asked casually. She stiffened. "I had work," she said. "As always." "Of course," he said. "Work. Baking, was it?" Her heart lurched. She forced herself to keep moving. "I do not know what you mean," she said. "Excuse me, Carlo, I must fetch water." He chuckled under his breath, a sound that followed her out into the yard. At the well, the air was crisp. She drew up the bucket with hands that trembled slightly. The rope scraped against the stone. 2 maids approached, carrying a bundle of linen between them. Lucia recognized them. Anna and Marta, both older, both given to whispering in corners. They lowered their voices when they came near, but not enough. "I tell you, I heard steps," Anna said. "Past midnight. And then this morning, Carlo says—" Their eyes slid to Lucia. She gripped the handle of the bucket. "Good morning," she said, because she could think of nothing else. "Yes," Marta replied too sweetly. "A very good morning. For some more than others." Lucia's cheeks heated. "I do not understand," she said. Anna smirked. "Of course you do not," she said. "You who never understand anything. Come, Marta, the linen will not wash itself." They moved on, laughing softly. Lucia carried the heavy bucket back inside. Each step seemed louder than usual. Each face she passed seemed to watch her. By the time she reached the kitchen, her chest felt tight. Donna Rosa was already there, stirring a pot. The older woman glanced up and frowned. "You are late," she said. Then she took a closer look. "What is this? You're pale, girl. Did you eat something bad?" Lucia set the bucket down. "No," she said. "I did not sleep well." "Too much thinking," Donna Rosa muttered. "It spoils the stomach. Here, cut these onions before I burn the soup." Lucia gratefully took the knife. The familiar work steadied her. She focused on the onions, on the motion of her hands, on the sting in her eyes that this time came from a more honest source. Yet even in the kitchen, she could not escape the looks. One of the younger scullery girls kept glancing at her and then whispering to another, eyes wide. Once, when Lucia turned suddenly, she caught a word. "Prince." The knife slipped slightly. She almost cut her finger. Donna Rosa noticed. "Careful," the cook barked. "Do not bleed in my soup." "Yes, Donna Rosa," Lucia murmured. After an hour, when the first trays were being prepared for the family's breakfast upstairs, the kitchen door swung open. Signora Rinaldi, the housekeeper, entered like a draught of cold air. She always seemed to bring a change in temperature with her. Her grey hair was pulled back severely. Her keys jingled at her waist. Her sharp eyes swept the room, counting, assessing. "Everything in order?" she asked. "Yes, Signora," Donna Rosa replied without looking up. "The bread is baked, the coffee is ready. The prince and his companions will be served on time." "Very good," the housekeeper said. Her gaze settled on Lucia. "Lucia Bianchi. A word. Now." Lucia's breath caught. "Yes, Signora," she said, setting down the knife carefully. She wiped her hands on her apron and followed Signora Rinaldi out of the kitchen, across the corridor, and into the small pantry where the jars and sacks were stored. The housekeeper closed the door behind them. The sounds from the kitchen became faint. "Do you know why you are here?" Signora Rinaldi asked. Lucia clasped her hands. "No, Signora," she said honestly. "At least, I am not certain." The housekeeper's lips thinned. "Interesting," she said. "You were more certain last night, it seems." Lucia's stomach dropped. "Last night?" she repeated. "Yes," Rinaldi said. "The kitchen, after hours. You know the rules. The lamps must be out. The room must be locked." "I stayed to clean," Lucia said quickly. "I did not wish to leave a mess." "Do not insult my intelligence," the housekeeper snapped. "You were seen, child." Lucia swallowed. "By whom?" she whispered, before she could stop herself. "It does not matter," Rinaldi said. "What matters is that you were there with him." The last word was loaded with meaning. Lucia stared at the floor. "Forgive me, Signora," she said. "His Highness came because he saw the light. I did not ask him to. I did not intend any impropriety." Rinaldi's eyebrows rose. "Impropriety," she repeated. "So you understand after all?" "No," Lucia said quickly. "Nothing improper happened. We only spoke." He sat, and he shared a piece of cake, that is all. A prince of the House of Savoy sat in the kitchen with you in the middle of the night and ate your cake, the housekeeper said slowly. And you truly believe that is all? Lucia's throat tightened. I did not think, she began. Exactly, Rinaldi cut in. You did not think, you never think. You imagine that because your heart is innocent, the world will be so as well. It is not. Lucia blinked back tears. I never meant to bring shame on the house, she said, or on him. Whether you meant to or not, the housekeeper said, you have placed yourself in a position that invites talk. Talk among the servants. Talk among visitors. Do you know how fragile a house's reputation can be? One rumor and everything crumbles. I said nothing to anyone, Lucia protested weakly. Rinaldi sighed. You did not need to, she said. People see. People imagine. They fill in the gaps with whatever dirt their minds can find. Carlo claims he heard laughter in the kitchen. Teresa says she saw you sneaking back to bed at dawn. Anna and Marta are already telling stories about how a little maid caught a prince in her net. Lucia felt sick. That is not true, she whispered. They know it is not true. They know nothing, the housekeeper said. Nor do they care. They are bored. They are jealous. They will make you into a story because it amuses them. And when that story reaches the wrong ears, it is not their positions that will be questioned. It is yours. Lucia clenched her fingers together so tightly they hurt. What must I do? She asked quietly. You must be discreet, Rinaldi said. No more midnight adventures. No more private conversations. You will keep your distance from His Highness unless directly ordered otherwise. You will not look at him as if he were anything other than your superior. You will not smile at him except with proper respect. Do you understand? Yes, Signora, Lucia said. And if you are foolish enough to seek his company again, the housekeeper went on, I will have no choice but to ask the master to let you go. I will not risk this house for the sake of a young girl's dreams. Lucia flinched at the word. I have no dreams, she said softly. Only work. Rinaldi's gaze softened for a brief second. Everyone has dreams, she said. That is precisely the problem. Then her face hardened again. This is your only warning, Lucia, she said. Do not mistake kindness for interest. Men of his rank are polite to women of your station for amusement, for curiosity, or for their own conscience. It never ends well for the woman. Lucia's eyes filled. We only ate cake, she whispered. The housekeeper shook her head. In this world, she said, even a crumb can be twisted into a feast. Go. The breakfast trays wait. Remember what I said. Lucia curtsied, blinking fast. Yes, Signora, she said. She stepped out of the pantry, feeling as if the air had thickened. The corridor seemed narrower, the sounds from the kitchen louder, harsher. Donna Rosa cast her a sharp look when she returned. What did the raven want? The cook muttered. Lucia picked up a cloth to dry the cups. She reminded me of my place, Lucia said quietly. Donna Rosa grunted. Some people need reminding more than others. Not you. She lowered her voice. Do not let them make you ashamed for whatever happened. As long as you remain decent, the sin is not yours. There was no sin, Lucia said quickly. Only foolishness. Then let it be, Donna Rosa said. The day is long. Wipe those cups quickly, or we will be late. They carried trays up the back stairs to the breakfast room. Lucia kept her eyes on the floor, her shoulders drawn in. In the bright dining room, Prince Alessandro sat near the window, a cup of coffee before him, a newspaper folded to one side. Another gentleman, one of his companions, spoke of horses. The master of the house listened, nodding politely. The steward signaled the servants. They moved forward in practiced rhythm, refilling cups, placing bread, clearing plates. Lucia's hands shook only slightly as she stepped up to replace the bread basket near the prince. She felt his gaze before she saw it. Lucia, he said softly. The sound of her name on his lips made her breath catch. She did not look at him. She focused on the tablecloth. Your Highness, she murmured, did you sleep at all? He asked quietly. It was an innocent question. To her, it felt like a spark in dry straw. She could feel eyes turning in their direction. I slept enough, sir, she said quickly. Will that be all? He hesitated, then smiled. I wish to thank you, he said, his voice warmer, louder this time. for the excellent cake last night." The words floated over the table like a feather, then dropped. The room fell a little still. Lucia felt the blood leave her face. She sensed, rather than saw, the steward's eyebrow lift. The master's gaze flickered. The other servants around the table froze for half a second. "The cake?" the master asked, attempting a polite laugh. "In the kitchen, Altezza." "Yes," Alessandro said, unaware of the sharpness of the silence. "I had trouble sleeping. I found a light in the kitchen and, well, I interrupted a celebration, I fear. The cook should promote her. She has real talent." Lucia wanted the floor to swallow her whole. The master cleared his throat. "How charming," he said carefully. "The staff are very devoted." "Yes," Alessandro said. She was baking alone for her birthday, can you imagine? A house this large and not one person to say the words to her. The master's smile froze. "How unfortunate," he murmured. "I am sure it was an oversight. We shall see that such details do not escape us in future." Lucia stepped back from the table as discreetly as she could, her heart pounding in her ears. The other servants avoided her gaze now. Carlo smirked faintly at the sideboard. Anna's lips were pressed into a thin line. The moment passed. The conversation shifted to politics, to crops, to the weather. But the words "excellent cake last night" remained hanging, invisible but heavy. In the servants' hall later, the whispers were no longer half-formed. They were sharp. "So it is true," Anna said. "He admitted it at the table. He went down to eat her cake." "I told you I saw something," Carlo replied. "Men do not go to kitchens at midnight for nothing." Teresa, sitting next to Lucia, nudged her. "You did not tell me it was your birthday," she said, her tone half accusing, half curious. Lucia began. "You must be very proud," Teresa went on, "to have made something His Highness liked so much that he speaks of it at breakfast." Lucia could not tell if there was admiration or envy behind the words. "There is nothing to be proud of," she said quietly. "I did what I should not have done." Carlo snorted. "You did what every girl dreams of," he said under his breath. "Caught the prince in the dark. Clever." Lucia stiffened. "That is not true," she said. "Of course not," he said with a mocking bow. "It simply happened that you were there, with a cake, a candle, and your best smile, when he could not sleep. A miracle worthy of the saints." Marta giggled. "Perhaps she blew out the candle and wished for a prince," she said. "Enough," Donna Rosa snapped from the doorway. "You will choke on your own spite if you are not careful. Lucia, with me." Lucia followed the cook back to the kitchen. "Do not answer them," Donna Rosa said brusquely. "They are like flies. Swat one, 3 more come." "It is my fault," Lucia said. "Signora Rinaldi warned me, and then he spoke of it in front of everyone." "He meant no harm," Donna Rosa said. "Princes do not understand kitchens or gossip, or how a word dropped in the wrong place can break a back." "I must stay away from him," Lucia said. "Completely." "That will be difficult," the cook said. "Your work takes you near him every day." "Then change my work," Lucia pleaded. "Give me the cellar, the laundry, anything. I will scrub the stones with my hands if I have to." Donna Rosa studied her for a long moment. "I will speak to Signora Rinaldi," she said at last. "Perhaps we can put you where tongues are shorter." By the next day, the change had been made. Lucia found herself transferred to heavier, less visible tasks: the laundry, the back stairs, the flagstones of the courtyard. Work that tired her body and kept her far from the dining room, far from the prince's direct line of sight. The housekeeper delivered the news with a cool tone. "It is necessary," Rinaldi said, "for everyone's peace. Be grateful I do not send you away entirely." "I am grateful," Lucia said, though the words scraped her throat. She threw herself into the new work, grateful for the exhaustion. At the wash-tubs, her arms ached from scrubbing sheets. In the courtyard, her knees hurt from kneeling on the stone. At least there, among the steam and soap and splashing water, there was less room for talk. But even there, whispers found her. "Did you see the way he looked at her?" one girl murmured, when they thought Lucia was too far to hear. "Men look at many things," another replied. "He will forget her when he returns to Turin." "Perhaps," the first said, "but until then, she walks on thin ice." Lucia pressed her lips together and scrubbed harder. Days blurred. She glimpsed the prince only from a distance, On the terrace, speaking with the master, in the stables, laughing with a groom, crossing the courtyard with his coat slung over his arm. Once, he turned his head as if searching for someone. Their eyes almost met. She lowered hers at once and moved behind a pillar, her heart pounding. In the evenings, when the servants gathered around the long table, the tone around her had changed. Some kept their distance, as if proximity might stain them. Others sat near her with false sympathy, asking questions that were really knives. "Has he spoken to you again?" Teresa asked one night, pretending casual interest. "No," Lucia said, "nor will he." "It was a mistake. It is over." Carlo leaned in. "That is not what I heard," he said. "I heard from Paolo, who heard from the stable boy, who heard from the coachman, that the prince is soon to be formally engaged." "Engaged?" someone asked. "Yes," Carlo said with relish, "to a lady in Turin, a contessa, very fine, very delicate, very rich. It is almost arranged, they say." "Then why does he linger here?" Marta asked. "Rest, they say," Carlo replied, "to strengthen his nerves before the wedding cage closes." Laughter rippled along the table. Lucia's spoon trembled in her hand. If he was to be engaged, then of course everything that had happened was nothing. A moment of kindness, a passing distraction, nothing more. She told herself this firmly. It did not entirely stop the ache. Later that night, when the others were in their rooms or at their posts, Lucia carried a basket of laundry through a quiet corridor near the front of the house. The lamps were low. A draught moved along the walls. She paused for a moment near a half-open door. Voices drifted out. She recognized the steward's tone first, smooth, careful. "It is all but certain," he was saying. "The letters speak of it as if it were already done. The Contessa Elena's family is very eager. Our young prince will be quite surrounded when he returns." Another voice answered, lower, with a hint of amusement. It might have been one of the visiting gentlemen. "And what of the little tales I hear below stairs?" the man asked. "About a maid and a cake and midnight light?" The steward chuckled stiffly. "Servants' fantasies," he said. "They will be dealt with. Once the engagement is announced, such nonsense will not be tolerated for a moment. Little maids who dream above their station will be swiftly removed." Lucia stood very still in the shadow of the doorframe, the basket of damp linens heavy on her hip. Swiftly removed. The words settled over her like cold water. Inside the room, the men went on talking as if they were discussing furniture. "Well," the visiting gentleman said, "so long as the house stays quiet, and His Highness is not distracted from his duties." "Precisely," the steward replied. "He is here to rest, not to start complications." They laughed softly. Lucia backed away, one careful step at a time, until the corridor turned and their voices faded. In the dim hallway, she leaned against the wall for a moment, willing her breath to slow. Little maids who dream above their station. She had not dreamed. Not really. She had only eaten her own cake and listened to a man speak kindly to her. Yet somehow that was enough to put her in danger. She lifted the basket again and walked on. The linen weighed no more than usual, but her arms ached. The next morning the house held a quiet anticipation. Word ran quickly that a guest of importance was arriving from Turin. "Marchese Vittorio," Carlo announced to a cluster of servants near the back door, puffing out his chest as if he had summoned the man himself. "Advisor to the king, knows everything, sees everything. He will not see you," Marta said dryly, "unless you crawl under his boots." They laughed, but there was an edge to it. Lucia walked past them with a bundle of logs in her arms. No one spoke to her. That, too, was new. The carriage rolled into the courtyard around midday. From the laundry window, Lucia glimpsed a tall, narrow man stepping down, his coat dark, his movements precise. The master of the house hurried to greet him. Voices drifted up, formal and full of compliments. Lucia turned away. In the afternoon, while she was scrubbing the steps of the side entrance, she saw Prince Alessandro walking with the Marchese along the gravel path. Their heads were bent toward each other. Their expressions were serious. She kept her gaze on the stone. Up on the path, Alessandro was saying, "I did not expect you so soon." "And yet here I am," Marchese Vittorio replied calmly. "You know the times, Altezza. We move quickly now, or others move quicker than we do." They walked a few more paces in silence. "You bring news?" Alessandro asked. Letters, chiefly, the Marchese said. From your father, from ministers, from certain families who are very interested in your well-being. They both knew which family he meant. Contessa Elena's? Alessandro asked. The Marchese inclined his head. They are anxious to conclude matters, he said. Our kingdom is young. Symbols are important. A union between your house and theirs sends a clear message of stability. And what message does it send to the woman? Alessandro asked. Or to the man? The Marchese gave him a sidelong look. It sends the message that they have understood their roles, he said. We do not marry only as individuals, Altezza. We marry as a country. Alessandro exhaled slowly. And if the individuals happen to wish for something else, he asked, then they must be wise enough not to wish too loudly, the Marchese replied. Forgive my frankness. I asked for it, Alessandro said. They walked in silence again until they reached the end of the path. Below, near the side steps, a girl knelt, scrubbing. Her hair was tied back. Her skirts were damp near the hem. Lucia. She did not look up, but he recognized her. The Marchese's gaze followed his. Is that the girl? He asked quietly. Alessandro stiffened. What girl? He said. The one the servants whisper about, the Marchese said. The birthday, the cake, the kitchen. I see that gossip is faster than carriages, Alessandro said dryly. In every house, the Marchese replied, do not be angry with them for being human, but do not give them cause to speak either. It harms no one but yourself. And perhaps, the girl. Alessandro looked down at Lucia again. She scrubbed steadily, back bent. There was no harm, he said. She was alone. It was her birthday. I shared a slice of cake with her. That is all. In your view, perhaps, the Marchese said. In the view of others, it may look very different. I am not ashamed, Alessandro answered. That is not the question, the Marchese replied softly. The question is whether you can afford to be careless. You are observed, Altezza, even when you share a piece of cake. Alessandro said nothing. The Marchese changed tone. Come, he said. Let us go inside. Your father's letter will not read itself. They turned away. Lucia let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Her hands shook in the soapy water. He had seen her. He had not spoken. He had walked on. She told herself it was better that way. Time passed. The house settled into a new rhythm with the Marchese present. There were more discussions in the study, more papers carried back and forth, more evenings when lamps glowed late in the upper rooms. Downstairs, the rhythm of work never changed. Lucia's days were divided into tasks that left little room for thought. Scrub, carry, wash, wring, sweep, repeat. Yet even in this stricter world, trouble found her. One afternoon, just as the light began to fade, a commotion broke out in the corridor near the pantry. The silver, someone whispered. The tray. It is missing. Lucia was carrying a stack of folded napkins when Anna rushed past her, skirts swishing. What is it? Lucia asked. Anna glanced at her with bright eyes. The large tray for the prince's supper, she said. The polished one. Carlo cannot find it. Perhaps it is with Donna Rosa, Lucia said, or in the scullery. They have already looked, Anna replied. Signora Rinaldi is furious. She says it was here an hour ago. Lucia's stomach tightened. I put it on the sideboard after polishing it, she said. I remember. Exactly, Anna said. You were the last to touch it. She hurried on, leaving the implication hanging. Lucia walked more quickly toward the pantry. A small knot of people had already formed there. Carlo, pale and sweating, Teresa, wide-eyed, the steward, frowning, Signora Rinaldi, her lips pressed together, and two of the younger maids, hovering nearby. The sideboard was bare. I do not understand, Carlo was saying. I set it here, ready for the evening, I swear it. You swear many things, Signora Rinaldi snapped. Swearing does not make the tray appear. The steward turned as he heard Lucia's steps. Bianchi, he said, you handled the tray this afternoon, did you not? Yes, sir, Lucia said. I polished it and brought it here. Carlo took it from me. And then? The steward asked. Then I went to the laundry, Lucia said. I have not been back until now. Carlo's jaw clenched. You dropped it, he said suddenly, or misplaced it, or hid it somewhere. You were flustered. Everyone saw it. Always rushing, always with your head in the clouds." "That is not true," Lucia said. "I placed it here on the cloth. I did not move it again. And yet it is gone," the steward said. "Things do not vanish into the air, Miss Bianchi." Teresa shifted uneasily. "I saw Lucia leave," she said. "She had no tray then." Anna spoke up. "But she might have returned," she said. "We cannot watch her every moment." "Are you accusing her of theft?" Donna Rosa's voice cut through the murmurs. She had just arrived, wiping her hands on her apron. Anna faltered. I did not say theft," she said. "The word was in your mouth," Donna Rosa replied. "Spit it out or swallow it. Do not let it poison the air." The steward raised a hand. "Enough," he said. "We are not at market. We will search, everyone, now, until we find it. If the tray has merely been misplaced, we will correct the error. If it has been otherwise removed, we will deal with that too." Faces grew tense. Losing a piece of silver was not a small matter. They spread out, opening cupboards, peering behind crates, checking shelves and under tables. The pantry, the kitchen, the scullery, the dining room sideboards. Lucia looked everywhere she could think of, heart pounding. She replayed the afternoon in her mind. "I took the tray from the shelf. I polished it with the cloth. I carried it carefully, both hands, to the sideboard. I set it down. The light from the window shone on it. Carlo came, took it. He said, 'Good. Now the prince will see his face in it.' If Carlo had taken it, where had it gone?" In less than half an hour, the search turned into something harsher. The steward's frown deepened. Signora Rinaldi's tone grew sharper. The Marchese appeared at the doorway, drawn by the commotion. "What is this?" he asked. "Our large silver tray has gone missing, sir," the steward said. "We are attempting to locate it." The Marchese's eyes narrowed. "In a house hosting the royal family," he said, "we cannot afford such mishaps." "I agree, Marchese," the steward said. "We will take measures." His gaze fell on Lucia. "Bianchi," he said, "you will empty your trunk in the laundry room." Lucia stared at him. "My trunk?" she repeated. "It must be done," the steward said, "for fairness. We will search everyone's things, of course, but as you were the last known to handle the tray—" Heat flared in Lucia's face. "I have never stolen anything in my life," she said. "My trunk holds only a dress, some stockings, and a comb, and a book without a cover. I have nothing else." "Then it will be an easy search," the steward replied. "I will not have the girl's things dumped out like a criminal's," Donna Rosa protested. "There has been some mistake. Look at her. She can barely lift the tray. Where would she hide it? In the yard, perhaps," Carlo muttered. "Under the steps." The Marchese watched the exchange with a cool expression. "I do not care to see maids interrogated in corridors," he said. "Handle this discreetly if you must. Above all, find the tray." He turned away. Just then, a voice came from the other end of the hall. "What is happening here?" Prince Alessandro stepped into view, coat unbuttoned, hair slightly ruffled from the wind outside. His gaze moved over the anxious faces, the open cupboards, the scattered cloths. Nobody answered at once. The steward cleared his throat. "A small inconvenience, Altezza," he said. "The large silver tray for your supper has been mislaid. We are searching." Alessandro's eyes went from the steward to Signora Rinaldi, then to Carlo, then to Lucia, whose hands were clenched in front of her apron. "Mislaid," he repeated. "Or lost?" Carlo spoke quickly. "We are certain it will turn up, Your Highness," he said. "We simply need to check, and until it does, you intend to—" "What?" Alessandro asked. "Question the staff, like prisoners." The steward stiffened. "We must eliminate possibilities, Altezza," he said. "The tray was last seen with Miss Bianchi here. We are obliged—" "With Lucia," Alessandro cut in. "You accuse her." "No one has accused her outright," Signora Rinaldi said. "We are only following procedure." "The first step of your procedure seems to be to humiliate her," Alessandro said. "It is not humiliation, sir," the steward said. "It is precaution. We must be certain nothing has been taken." Alessandro's expression hardened. "I see," he said. "And when did this get noticed?" "Just now, sir," Carlo answered. "I was preparing for supper and—" "You were responsible for the tray after Lucia polished it, were you not?" Alessandro asked. Carlo hesitated. "Yes, Altezza," he said. Then I suggest you search your own steps twice before questioning hers, Alessandro said sharply. Lucia would sooner cut off her hands than steal a piece of your silver. A murmur went through the group. Lucia's heart thudded. He had said her name in that firm tone in front of everyone. Your Highness, the steward began carefully, we must consider that a mistake has been made, Alessandro said. Not a crime. I will not have a girl's trunk turned upside down because a footman cannot remember where he set down a tray. Continue searching the rooms if you wish, but you will leave her in peace. The steward swallowed. As you wish, Altezza, he said tightly. Signora Rinaldi's lips pressed even more thinly. We only seek to guard the house's honor, she said. And I seek to guard hers, Alessandro replied. The corridor fell quiet. At that precise moment, a shout came from the far end. I found it, a young maid cried, appearing with flushed cheeks. In the small sitting room under a cloth. I think someone moved it there when we dusted. Carlo's face turned red. That was this morning, he stammered. I was helping Marta with the carpets. I must have. So, Alessandro said coolly, the thief was forgetfulness. An awkward, relieved laughter rippled. The steward nodded quickly. Very good, he said. Then all is well. We shall ensure such confusion does not happen again. The Marchese had returned to the edge of the group, watching. He said nothing, but his eyes lingered on the prince. Alessandro looked at Lucia. Are you all right? He asked quietly. Yes, Your Highness, she said, though her legs felt weak. Thank you. Return to your work, he said more gently. Without fear. She bowed her head. Yes, sir, she whispered. She walked away before anyone could see the tears in her eyes. Later she found herself in the narrow passage outside the laundry when she heard his footsteps behind her. Lucia, he called. She stopped, then turned slowly. Your Highness, she said, you should not be here. This passage is for servants. Then I am an intruder twice over, he said. Once in the kitchen, once here. His attempt at lightness did not quite land. Her face was too strained. You should not have defended me like that, she said. Should I have let them search your trunk, he asked. Treat you like a thief? It would have been over quickly, she replied. They would have found nothing and moved on. And the shame, he asked. The suspicion? She lifted her chin. I am a servant, she said. Suspicion is included in the position, but your defense, that is different. How? He demanded. It makes their whispers louder, she said. They think there must be something for you to speak so, some attachment. They will not say the maid was accused. They will say the prince protects her. It is worse. He stared at her. My kindness harms you, he said slowly. In this place, yes, she said. Your kindness is a luxury. For you, it costs nothing. For me, it is a sentence. The words hung between them. He flinched as if struck. That was not my intention, he said. I know, she replied. You mean well. But meaning changes nothing when the day's work begins and the doors close. When I walk into a room, they do not see me anymore, only the story. Then I will correct the story, he said. I will tell them, no, she interrupted more sharply than she had ever spoken to him. Please, say nothing more. Every word you speak for me builds another wall around me down here. He fell silent. I do not wish to bring trouble to you, she said more softly, or to this house, or to myself. Let this morning be the last time you speak my name in front of them. He studied her face. It is difficult, he said, to pretend I do not see you. It is easier, she said, for everyone. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Very well, he said at last. If that is what you ask of me, I will try. She nodded. Thank you, she said. He took a breath. But hear me, he added. I will not regret what I did. You deserve to be defended. She looked away. Deserving does not matter, she said. Only consequences do. From the far end of the passage, voices approached. She stepped back, pressing herself against the wall. You must go, she whispered. If they see you here. He hesitated, then inclined his head. As you wish, he said quietly. He turned and walked away, his footsteps fading. Lucia remained where she was for a moment, eyes closed. She felt no triumph from his defense, only a deeper sense of imbalance, as if the ground under her had shifted and might crack at any moment. The crack came sooner than she expected. That evening in the master's study the mood was tense. The lamps burned low, papers lay on the desk. The master, the steward, Signora Rinaldi, and Marchese Vittorio sat or stood in a tight circle. "It was unfortunate," the master said, rubbing his forehead. "A misunderstanding." "A visible misunderstanding," the Marchese replied. "In the corridor, in front of half the staff. The prince cannot help his heart, I suppose, but others can help him by limiting the opportunities." "I assure you, Marchese," Signora Rinaldi said, "we have warned the girl. She has been moved to the less visible duties." "That may no longer be enough," the Marchese said. "He has taken notice of her. Publicly now, twice." The steward fidgeted with his pen. "The servants' gossip has worsened," he admitted. "They twist each glance into something larger. I fear it will soon reach the ears of others, visitors, perhaps even the prince's family." The master sighed. "That is what I dread," he said. "I am honored to host His Highness. I do not wish any shadow to fall on his stay here." "There is a simple solution," the Marchese said. They all looked at him. "The girl," he said. "Send her away, quietly, with a recommendation if you must ease your conscience. But send her." Signora Rinaldi's hands clasped more tightly. "She is a good worker," she said, "and young. Perhaps she can learn." "I do not doubt her character," the Marchese said, "or her usefulness. But she is now a point where two worlds touch. That is dangerous for both. Remove the point, and the lines no longer cross." The steward nodded slowly. "It would end the whispers," he said, "or at least change their tone. They would say she was punished, others would be cautious." "And what will the prince say?" the master asked. "He has defended her once already." "We will not trouble him with the details," the Marchese replied. "We will say only that her family requested her return, or that we needed to adjust the staff. A man in his position has many matters to attend to. The coming weeks will fill his mind." The master hesitated. "It feels harsh," he said. "It is prudent," the Marchese answered. Signora Rinaldi let out a slow breath. "I do not wish to be unjust," she said, "but I also have a house to protect. If His Highness's family hears that improper intimacy was allowed under my oversight," she trailed off. The master made his decision. "Very well," he said. "We will release her, quietly, with a small sum and a letter of good service. No mention of any impropriety. She need not suffer more than necessary." "Who will tell her?" the steward asked. "I will," Signora Rinaldi began. "No." Donna Rosa's voice came from the doorway. They turned. The cook stood there, arms folded, eyes fierce. "This is not your habit, Rosa," the master said mildly, "to listen at doors." "It is not my habit to throw away good girls either," she replied. "If you must do this foolish thing, I will be the one to tell her. She trusts me more than she trusts any of you, and I wish to look her in the eyes when she learns that kindness has cost her a roof." The Marchese's expression tightened, but he said nothing. The master nodded reluctantly. "Very well," he said. "Do it tomorrow. Let her finish the day's work. Then she may pack. We will give her 3 days' wages extra." "3 days," Donna Rosa repeated. "How generous." She turned and left before they could answer. The next afternoon, when the kitchen had a rare quiet moment between meals, Donna Rosa called Lucia over. "Sit," she said gruffly, pointing to a stool. Lucia frowned. "I still have the potatoes to peel," she said. "The potatoes can wait," Donna Rosa replied. "Sit." Lucia obeyed, uneasy. The cook wiped her hands on her apron and looked at the young woman for a long time. "What is it?" Lucia asked. "Have I done something wrong?" "No," Donna Rosa said. "You have done everything right. That is why we are here." "I do not understand," Lucia said. Donna Rosa sighed. "Nor do I," she muttered. "But the world seldom asks for my understanding. It only asks for my obedience." She met Lucia's eyes. "They are letting you go," she said bluntly. Lucia stared at her. "Letting me go," she repeated faintly. "Dismissed," Donna Rosa said. "Released, pushed out. Choose the word you like. The meaning is the same." The room tilted for a moment. "For what reason?" Lucia whispered. "They say it is for the house's reputation," Donna Rosa answered. "Your presence has become inconvenient. Too many eyes on you. Too many tongues wagging. They would rather remove the cause than control the tongues." Tears rushed to Lucia's eyes. "I have done nothing shameful," she said. "On my life I have not." "I know," Donna Rosa said. "That is why it burns." "Did the prince ask for this?" Lucia asked, her voice barely audible. "No," the cook said at once. "This smells of the Marchese and of fear." "Not of him." Lucia swallowed. "When must I leave?" she asked. "In 3 days," Donna Rosa said. "They will give you a small sum and a letter saying you worked well. You can find another house. Perhaps one where no princes ever visit." It was meant as a small joke. It fell flat. Lucia's hands twisted together. "My aunt is ill," she said. "My cousin has 7 children. If I return to them, I will be another mouth to feed. Here, at least, I had a bed." "I know," Donna Rosa said gently. "We will think of something. I have a sister in another town. She knows people. We will send a letter." Lucia nodded numbly. "I am sorry," Donna Rosa said. "Truly, it is not your fault," Lucia whispered. The cook hesitated, then reached out and placed a rough hand over Lucia's. "One more thing," she said. "They mean to tell His Highness nothing or very little. They say it would only disturb him. She is a servant, they say. He has a kingdom to think of." Lucia's breath caught. "Then he will not know why I'm gone," she said. "No," Donna Rosa said. "Unless someone tells him." Lucia shook her head quickly. "No," she said. "No, he must not know. If he tries to help again, it will be worse. They will blame him. They will blame me. It will never end." Donna Rosa searched her face. "Are you certain?" she asked. "He might—" "No," Lucia said firmly, though her voice trembled. "I will leave quietly. I will not burden him with this. He has his own life, his future. He owes me nothing, and I—" She looked toward the high window, where a square of sky showed between the soot and cobwebs. "I will not let him feel guilty for something he cannot change," she finished softly. "He must never know I am leaving." Lucia folded her life into a small bundle. On the first night after Donna Rosa told her, she took out her trunk and laid it open on the narrow bed. It was not much. A second dress, a worn shawl, 2 pairs of stockings, a comb with 3 missing teeth, a tiny wooden cross, the book with no cover. She stood for a long time just looking at it all. 3 days, she thought. 3 more mornings. 3 more nights. Teresa came in and saw the open trunk. "You are traveling?" she asked, surprised. "Yes," Lucia said quietly. "They are sending me away." Teresa's mouth fell open. "For the prince?" she blurted. "Because of the cake?" Lucia flinched. "Because of gossip," she said. "Because it is easier to lose one maid than to stop many tongues." Teresa sank onto her own bed. "I did not think they would go so far," she muttered. "Where will you go?" "I do not know yet," Lucia said. "Donna Rosa will write to her sister." Teresa bit her lip. "I did not mean to— I mean, when I talked, I only— It does not matter," Lucia interrupted gently. "We all talked. I talked to myself in the kitchen. Perhaps that was the worst of all." Teresa looked at her. "Will you say goodbye to him?" she asked in a whisper. "No," Lucia said firmly. "He has enough to think of, and this is not his burden." Teresa hesitated. "Everyone says he will be engaged soon," she said, "to a great lady. You heard, yes?" "Yes," Lucia said. "I heard." "Then perhaps it is better," Teresa went on. "Better to leave now." "Yes," Lucia said again, though the word tasted bitter. "Better." The next day, she threw herself into work. She wanted no one to say that she had grown lazy because she was leaving. She scrubbed the courtyard stones until her hands stung. She hauled baskets of laundry heavier than before. She stayed in the furthest corners of the house, away from the polished rooms where the prince walked. It was not hard to avoid him now. The Marchese had come, and with him long hours of letters and discussions. If Alessandro passed through the courtyard, it was in haste, his brow furrowed, his mind seemingly elsewhere. Once, as Lucia was carrying coal to the scullery, she glimpsed him on the terrace with Marchese Vittorio. Papers fluttered in the Marchese's hand. Alessandro's profile was tense. "Your father believes the announcement should be made within the month," the Marchese was saying. "The Contessa's family is already preparing." "I have not given my word," Alessandro replied. "In matters such as these, Silence is almost the same as a word, the Marchese said. The longer you do not refuse, the more they assume consent. Lucia did not hear the rest. She forced herself through the door before anyone noticed her. That evening, in the servants' hall, the talk was the same as every night, only louder. They say the Marchese brought the engagement contract, Carlo announced, full of importance. They will sign it soon. Do you think he will be happy? Marta asked. With this Contessa? What does it matter? Carlo said. He is a prince. Happiness for such people is a decoration, not a necessity. Teresa glanced at Lucia. You will leave before he does, she whispered. At least you will not have to see it. Lucia forced a small smile. Yes, she said. At least that. Upstairs, Alessandro sat at the desk in his room with his father's letter open in front of him. The neat, firm lines stared back. The king had written of many things: the state of the army, a new law in Parliament, a minor crisis in a southern province. Only near the end did the topic change. As to the question of your marriage, the letter said, you know my position. The Contessa Elena is suitable in every way, and her family's support would strengthen the unity we have worked so hard to build. I will not force your hand, but neither can I ignore the advantages. Consider carefully, my son. Duty is not always the enemy of the heart, though it may appear so at first. Alessandro let the paper fall to the table. He looked out the window. The courtyard lay in shadow. He could just see the outline of the laundry lines, flickering in the wind. Below those lines, somewhere, Lucia folded sheets with hands that had almost been accused of theft, hands that had baked a crooked cake with scraps, simply so her own birthday would not pass in silence. I am expected to marry for the sake of the country, he murmured, and she is cast out for the sake of my name. The injustice of it boiled inside him. He left his room abruptly and went in search of the Marchese. He found Vittorio in the small library, reading by a lamp. Marchese, Alessandro said without preamble, we must speak. Vittorio closed the book calmly. Of course, Altezza, he said. Sit. Alessandro stood. I have heard that a member of the staff is being dismissed, he said. Lucia Bianchi. Vittorio studied him. You have heard correctly, he said. The decision was made by the master and his housekeeper, with my agreement. Your agreement, Alessandro repeated. On what grounds? On the grounds of prudence, the Marchese said. Her presence has become a point of speculation. The servants invent tales. You have been seen to defend her twice now. It invites misunderstanding. It invites justice, Alessandro retorted. Nothing more. Justice can be done in silence, Vittorio replied. In this case, silence would have been kinder. By speaking in her favor before everyone, you mocked her. Alessandro's hands clenched. So you punish her, he said. For my words. We remove a source of complication, the Marchese said. She will receive a fair letter, a small sum. She can find another place. Nothing in her papers will mention the true reason. It is more than many in her position receive. Her position, Alessandro repeated. You speak as if she were a tool one can move from one shelf to another. Do not pretend you do not know how this works, Vittorio said quietly. You have grown up in houses like this. You have seen girls hired and dismissed. Names change, faces change, the house remains. Alessandro took a breath. You said something earlier, he said, that the engagement with Contessa Elena is not yet sealed, only expected. That is so, the Marchese conceded, but as I told you, expectations, when left unchallenged, become reality. Then I will challenge them, Alessandro said, clearly, now. Vittorio's eyes narrowed. Altezza. No, Alessandro cut in. Listen to me. I do not refuse lightly. I know what is at stake. I know the maps you and my father study. I know the names of the families whose support we seek. I know all this. But I also know that if I allow this engagement to go forward, while a girl loses her livelihood because people fear what my heart might or might not feel, I will have built the foundation of my future on a cowardice I cannot respect. Harsh words, the Marchese said. True ones, Alessandro replied. I would rather face the displeasure of a noble family now than a lifetime of looking in the mirror and seeing a man who let others be sacrificed to make his path smoother. The Marchese was silent for a moment. At least sit, he said finally. Alessandro sat. Vittorio folded his hands. Very well, he said. Let us speak plainly. Do you intend to marry this maid? Alessandro hesitated only a second. I do not know what the future will allow, he said. I know only that I cannot simply watch her be sent away like a troublesome kitten, and then proceed to sign my name beneath a contract with another woman as if nothing had happened. Vittorio studied him. Is it infatuation? He asked. Is it gratitude? Guilt? It is recognition, Alessandro said softly. When I saw her alone at that table, with her crooked cake and one candle, I saw myself. Different, of course, but the same loneliness, the same sense that one's life is arranged by others, and there is no room to ask for more than bread and duty. You are not the same, Vittorio said, and the world will not treat you as such. I know, Alessandro said, but I can choose how I treat her. The Marchese exhaled. And if your parents oppose you? He asked. I will write to them, Alessandro said. Now, honestly, I will tell them that I cannot in good conscience marry a woman I do not love while caring for another. I will explain that forcing such a union would not strengthen the kingdom, but rot it quietly from within. Vittorio gave a small, ironic smile. You always had a taste for grand words, he said. Because you taught me to read them, Alessandro replied. The Marchese's expression softened just a fraction. And the Contessa? He asked. She is not a villain in this. No, Alessandro said, which is why she deserves honesty as well. I will write to her too. I will not insult her by pretending affection I do not feel. You will risk insulting her family, the Marchese warned. I will risk telling the truth, Alessandro said. Vittorio drummed his fingers on the arm of his chair. You are determined, he said. I am, Alessandro answered. Very well, Vittorio said at last. Write. I will ensure the letters go through the proper channels. I will soften what I can. But do not expect a blissful silence. There will be talk. There will be pressure. I am used to pressure, Alessandro said. What I am not used to is letting others pay my debts. He rose. And the girl? Vittorio asked. She stays, Alessandro said. Are you sure that is wise? The Marchese asked. No, Alessandro said. But I am sure that sending her away because I spoke kindly to her is unwise and unjust. If after my letters my parents insist that she must be removed, I will answer them directly. Until then, she stays. The Marchese inclined his head. As you wish, Altezza, he said. I will inform the master that the dismissal is to be postponed. Not postponed, Alessandro said. Cancelled. Vittorio did not argue. That night, Alessandro sat again at his desk with fresh paper. He wrote to his father first. The words did not come easily. He crossed lines out, began again, tried to balance respect and firmness. Father, he wrote at last, you have always taught me that our new kingdom must be built on something more than habit. If we wish the people to trust us, we must show that we are guided by conscience as well as by calculation. In that spirit, I must tell you plainly that I cannot give my heart or my name to Contessa Elena. She is a fine lady. She deserves a husband who can love her. I am not that man. He explained in careful phrases that his heart had turned elsewhere without naming Lucia. He hinted at the unfairness done to someone in the house because of fears about his reputation. He spoke of duty, but also of the kind of man he wished to become. Then he wrote to Contessa Elena. That letter was shorter, more personal. Signorina, he wrote, we have met only twice, and on both occasions I sensed in you a quiet reluctance that mirrors my own. There is talk of binding our futures together. I write to ask your forgiveness for not accepting such a bond. You deserve a husband whose thoughts do not wander elsewhere, and I do not wish to condemn either of us to a respectful loneliness. He sealed both letters and handed them to Vittorio himself. I trust you, he said. That may be your greatest mistake, the Marchese replied, but there was a hint of a smile. I will send them at once. Days passed. Lucia knew nothing of letters or cancelled dismissals. No one had told her that the decision about her had changed. The household preferred to wait for the prince's family's reply before altering their course, so she continued to pack at night. She continued to work as if each task were her last in that place. Donna Rosa hovered around her like a heavy, protective bird. "Eat," the cook would say, pushing an extra piece of bread toward her. "You will need strength wherever you go." One evening, Signora Rinaldi approached her near the linen closet. "Your final day is tomorrow," the housekeeper said, her voice stiff. "You will return your keys in the morning." "Yes, Signora," Lucia said. Rinaldi hesitated. "This was not entirely my wish," she said. "But I must think of the house. I hope you understand." "I understand my place," Lucia said quietly. "That is not what I asked," Rinaldi said. Lucia met her eyes. "I understand that sometimes good people do hard things because the world is harder," she said. "You have been fair to me, Signora. I do not blame you." A flicker of relief crossed the housekeeper's face. "Your letter of reference will be ready," she said. "You have worked well. Wherever you go, do not let anyone take that from you." "Thank you," Lucia said. That night in his room, Alessandro paced. He had received his father's answer that afternoon. The letter was shorter than usual. "My son," it began, "you surprise me. I had thought you resigned to the match with Contessa Elena, if not enthusiastic. Still, I cannot fault you for refusing to lie in so important a matter. Your mother believes, and I agree, that an unwilling husband is a poor foundation for an alliance. The Contessa's family will be displeased. We will bear it. As for the other matter you hint at, I can only say be careful. A king must walk among his people, but he must not trip over every stone in his path. If this girl is as worthy as you imply, time will show it. I trust you will not disgrace our name." His mother had added a short line in her own hand at the bottom. "Choose a wife you can respect," she had written, "and who respects you. The rest we will manage." The Contessa's reply had come as well, through the Marchese's channels. "I confess that your letter brought me relief," she had written. "I too felt the weight of an arrangement decided more for maps than for hearts. Let us part before we truly join, and thus avoid a polite misery. I wish you happiness, whatever shape it takes. Do not worry for my family. They will find another way to feel important. They always do." Alessandro had laughed aloud at that last line, then felt a strange gratitude toward this woman he had almost been bound to. Now, only one thing remained: Lucia. He could not wait for another decision to be made above his head. He had already allowed too many. He waited until the house was quiet, then left his room and went down the back stairs. He knew where she would be. The kitchen had become the place where their paths crossed when the rest of the world slept. Tonight the lamps were low but not out. The fire was only embers. On the table, a pile of folded cloths waited. Lucia stood by the stove, wiping her hands. Her small trunk sat near the door. "Lucia," he said softly. She turned, startled. "Your Highness," she said, automatically reaching for her apron, then realizing there was nothing to adjust. "You should not be here." "So you have told me before," he said. "It never seems to stop me." She glanced at the trunk. "I am leaving at dawn," she said, as if that explained everything. "It is better this way. You should be asleep." "I know about your dismissal," he said, "and I know you did not ask for it." She looked down. "I did not wish you to know," she said. "I told Donna Rosa not to trouble you." "She did me a kindness by disobeying you," he replied. "If she had stayed silent, you would have vanished, and I would have discovered too late that I had allowed it." "It is not for you to allow or forbid," Lucia said. "This is not your house. It is not your staff." He stepped closer. "It is my conscience," he said. "That at least is mine to guard." She said nothing. "I have spoken," he went on. "To the Marchese, to the master, to my father." Her head snapped up. "To your father," she repeated. "About me, about many things," he said. "About my future, about a certain engagement, about the way this house chose to solve a problem by sending you away." "You should not have done that," she whispered. "They will say, they always say," he interrupted gently. "Let them. I am tired of living in fear of shadows on walls." She shook her head. "You do not understand," she said. "You will return to palaces and councils. You will have other concerns. I will be left among those shadows you disturb. When you defend me, it is like shining a lantern in a nest of insects. They scatter, but they do not die. They bite in the dark." He winced at the image. "I do understand more than you think," he said. "But you are right in one thing. Our positions are not the same. I move differently in this world. That is precisely why I must sometimes use that movement to shield, not to crush. She watched him silently. You are not leaving, he said. Not tomorrow. Not like this. I have made that clear to them. They will not dare keep me if your father demands otherwise, she said. My father has left this in my hands, Alessandro said. He only asked me to be careful. For once, I intend to be careful in a way that does not mean sacrificing someone else. What of the Contessa? Lucia asked. They say you are to marry her. They said many things, he replied. I have written to her. I have declined. She understood. It seems we were both more in love with the idea of peace than with each other. Lucia stared. You refused her, she said slowly. For me? For myself, he said. For the man I wish to be. But yes, also because of you. Because after that night in the kitchen, I could not imagine binding my life to someone else while pretending that what I felt for you was nothing. Her breath caught. You feel nothing, she said quickly. We barely know each other. We have spoken only a handful of times. You know nothing of my temper, my foolishness, my worst days. This is a kindness, nothing more. It is not nothing, he said. It was not nothing when I saw you blow out a candle on a cake you baked for yourself because no one else would do it. It was not nothing when you spoke of remembering your name beneath your apron. It was not nothing when you told me that my kindness is a sentence for you. You are the first person in a long time who has spoken to me as if I was simply a man, not a symbol. Do not tell me that is nothing. She pressed her lips together. It does not change that I am a maid, she said, and you are who you are. It changes what I'm willing to accept in my life, he said. I may not be able to turn the world upside down, but I can choose who stands beside me when I face it. Her eyes filled. How you speak as if you could simply pick me up from this floor and set me at your table, she said, as if there were no stairs between. There are many stairs, he said, some steep, some guarded. I am not foolish. I know the battle we would face. There will be whispers, objections. Perhaps worse than objections, there will be those who never accept it. Then why? She asked, almost angrily. Why choose a path full of stones when you could walk on smooth carpet? He smiled sadly. Because I am learning that smooth carpets often cover rotten boards, he said, and stones at least are honest. She almost laughed, a choked sound. This is madness, she whispered. You cannot promise me anything. Your family could still refuse. The ministers could protest. The people could mock. You ask me to trust air. I ask you to trust me, he said softly. Not with blind faith, with eyes open. I cannot promise you a crown. I cannot even promise you an easy life. But I can promise you this. I will not hide you. I will not pretend you are less than you are to me. And I will not allow you to be cast aside in silence while I take a more comfortable road. She stared at him, breathing fast. Say it plainly, she said. What is it you feel exactly? I do not know the polite words for such things. He stepped closer still, leaving only the width of the table between them. She asked him to say it, he thought. She deserves to hear it, not wrapped in politics. Lucia, he said, I love you. The words dropped into the quiet kitchen like a stone into water. She flinched, as if struck. No, she said immediately, you cannot. Not like that. Love is a big word. You will regret it. I might regret many things, he replied. Not this. You do not know me, she insisted. I sulk. I get angry. I sometimes hate my work. I have bad dreams. I am not sweet all the time. Good, he said. I have no need of a saint. I need a woman who will tell me when I speak foolishly. You will tire of me, she whispered. When your days are filled with counsels and journeys, you will wish for someone who speaks your language, who knows all the right names and forks. I know all the right forks already, he said. I need someone who knows how to bake a cake from scraps and still find joy in it. She shook her head, torn between laughter and tears. And what would I be? She asked. If this went as you imagine, what would I be in your world? My wife, he said simply. She stared at him, stunned. You speak as if it were possible, she said. It may not be now, he admitted. Not immediately. We will face resistance. We may need to wait, to prove things, to persuade. But my mind is set. I would rather spend years working toward a life with you than enter tomorrow into a perfect arrangement with someone I do not love. Her shoulders slumped. You ask for courage I do not know if I have, she said. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back, and took her hand. "You have more courage than you see," he said. "You have lived all these years with your hope hidden like a candle under a bowl. You lit it anyway, alone. That was courage." She looked at their joined hands. "It is easier to be brave when no one is watching," she said. "Then let us learn to be brave when everyone is watching," he answered. Together, she closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in. When she opened them again, something had changed. The fear was still there, but there was something else beside it. A quiet, trembling resolve. "What would you have me do?" she asked. "Stay," he said. "For now, simply stay. Do not leave at dawn. Let them see that you are still here because I wish it so. Let them grow used to the idea that you are not a mistake to be erased." "And if they send me away anyway?" she asked. "Then I will follow," he said, "not as a prince with an army, but as a man with a stubborn heart." Tears spilled over her lashes. "I do not want you to lose your family's respect," she said. "If their respect depends on me ignoring what is right," he replied, "then I do not want it." She gave a shaky laugh. "You talk like the heroes in the stories my father used to tell," she said. "Men who fought dragons and married shepherd girls." "I have seen no dragons," he said. "Only housekeepers and marchesi. They are worse in some ways." She smiled through her tears. "They will not like your jokes," she said. "They do not have to," he replied. "You do." Silence fell again, softer now. Finally, Lucia nodded. "I will stay," she said. "If they truly allow it. I will trust you. A little." "A little is enough for tonight," he said. He lifted his free hand, hesitated, then touched her cheek gently, his fingers brushing the track of a tear. She did not pull away. Instead, she leaned slightly into the warmth of his palm. "For what it is worth," she whispered, I think I love you too, though I do not know yet what that love will cost me." "Whatever it costs," he said quietly. "I will pay my share." Outside, the wind moved along the walls. Inside, in the half-lit kitchen where a crooked cake had once stood between them, a new agreement settled without ink or witnesses. Two hands, once divided by rank and rules, remained clasped on the rough wood of the table, as if learning the weight and comfort of this new promise. The next morning, Lucia half expected to wake and find that everything from the night before had been a dream. For a moment, it almost felt that way. Teresa snored softly in the other bed. The thin light of dawn slipped through the shutters. The same worn dress lay folded on the chair. Then she saw the open trunk at the foot of her bed. Her things were still inside, not packed, not ready to leave. The memory returned in a rush. The kitchen, his hand in hers, his voice saying, "You are not leaving. My mind is set." Her heart leaped, then steadied itself. "Do not build castles," she murmured to herself. "One promise is not yet a palace." Teresa stirred. "Are you awake?" Teresa mumbled. "Yes," Lucia said. Teresa turned over and squinted at the trunk. "You did not finish packing," she observed. "No," Lucia said. "It seemed I am to stay for now." Teresa sat up. "Stay?" she repeated. "But Signora Rinaldi said—" "I know what she said," Lucia replied. "But the prince spoke, and the Marchese listened. Things have changed." Teresa's eyes grew wide. "For you?" she whispered. "He did that for you?" Lucia shrugged, trying to seem calm. "For his conscience," she said, "and perhaps a little for me." Teresa slid off the bed and grabbed her hands. "Then you truly are foolish if you still doubt," she said. "No man argues with Marchese for the sake of a maid he does not care about." Lucia smiled, though fear still pricked at her. "He cares," she said softly. "I believe that now. But the world around us has long arms. We must see how far they reach." She dressed quickly and went down to the kitchen. Donna Rosa was already bustling about, banging pots with more force than necessary. "You are late," the cook said. "You sleep like a lady now." "I hardly slept at all," Lucia admitted. "Good," Donna Rosa grunted. "It will prepare you for being a wife." Lucia almost dropped the bowl she was carrying. "A wife," she repeated. "Whose wife?" "That is what the whole house is asking," Donna Rosa replied. "They will keep asking until they tire of the question. Let them. Hand me the flour." Lucia obeyed, cheeks burning. Before the morning was over, Signora Rinaldi appeared in the doorway, just as she had on the day she announced the dismissal. "Lucia," the housekeeper said. "With me." Lucia exchanged a quick look with Donna Rosa. The cook raised her eyebrows in a way that said, "Remember what he told you." Lucia dried her hands and followed. They walked down the corridor, past the pantry. Rinaldi's keys clinked at her waist. She stopped in a small, seldom-used sitting room and closed the door. "We stand here often, you and I," Lucia said quietly. "It seems so," Rinaldi replied, "though I would prefer fewer such interviews. Sit." Lucia sat on the edge of a chair. The housekeeper's face was less hard than usual. There were lines of weariness around her eyes. "The decision about your dismissal has been reconsidered," Rinaldi said. "Reconsidered," Lucia repeated. "Yes," Rinaldi said. "The prince was very clear. The Marchese has agreed. The master has agreed. You will not be leaving." Lucia's hands clenched together. "I see," she murmured. "And how many people did it take to reverse a choice made about one maid?" Rinaldi's lips twitched. "Too many," she admitted. "But I will not argue with the result." Lucia looked at her. "And the reason?" she asked. "Do they say I have suddenly become less dangerous to the house's reputation?" The housekeeper sighed. "You have become more complicated," she said. "That is all. But there is another matter." "What matter?" Lucia asked. Rinaldi met her eyes. "You were right," she said slowly. "You had done nothing shameful. We wronged you with our suspicions. I wronged you." Lucia blinked. "You warned me," she said. "You tried to protect the house." "And in doing so, I failed to protect you," Rinaldi said. "It is not a balance I am proud of. I wish to say this now, before the world becomes noisier. I am sorry, Lucia." The words were simple. They struck deep. Lucia felt her throat tighten. "Thank you," she said. "That means more than you think." Rinaldi nodded once. "You will keep your position," she went on. "For now, you remain in the less visible duties. Not as punishment, but as my precaution, until it is clear where all this is going." "Where all this is going," Lucia repeated, almost smiling. "I wish I knew that myself." "I suspect you will not have to wonder for long," Rinaldi said. "His Highness does not walk slowly when his mind is made up." They returned to their work. By midday, the whispers had shifted again. "They say she is not leaving," Marta told Anna in the laundry. "Of course she is not leaving," Anna scoffed. "You do not throw away something the prince has picked up." Teresa stepped between them. "She is not a thing," Teresa said sharply. "She is Lucia." Anna raised her hands. "I meant no insult," she said. "You meant everyone," Teresa replied. "But you will swallow them." Later, even Carlo approached Lucia in the courtyard, twisting his cap in his hands. "I heard you were staying," he said. "Yes," Lucia replied. "As far as I know." Carlo shifted his weight. "Tyson may have spoken too quickly before," he said, looking at the ground. "About nets and princes. It was envy and stupidity. Mostly stupidity." Lucia stared at him, surprised. "I have been stupid as well," she said. "We will call it even." He glanced up, relieved. "Thank you," he muttered. "If you do become something in his world, perhaps remember that Carlo is very good at polishing trays." She laughed. "If I become something in his world, I will still need someone to remind me where the kitchen is," she said. "You can help with that." That afternoon, a quiet buzz began near the servants' entrance. "There is to be a gathering tonight," the steward announced. "In the large kitchen. All staff are to attend. The master and His Highness will be present." "A gathering?" Donna Rosa asked. "In my kitchen? To trample my floor?" "His Highness wishes to address everyone," the steward replied. "He has requested a cake be made." Donna Rosa's eyes sparkled. "Has he now?" she said. "Well, we must not disappoint a prince." She turned to Lucia. "Come," she said. "We will bake something worth an address." "You wish me to help?" Lucia asked. "Who else would I choose for a cake that may change the air of this house?" Donna Rosa snorted. "Take out the good flour and the sugar. No scraps tonight." They worked together side by side, the way they had on ordinary days, only now each movement seemed charged with meaning. "Do you know what this is about?" Lucia asked once, while beating eggs. "I know what I hope it is about," Donna Rosa replied. "But hope rises like dough. You must not look at it too closely or it falls." Lucia smiled faintly. In the late afternoon, while the cake was cooling on the table, the kitchen door opened. Alessandro stepped in, alone. Donna Rosa straightened. "Your Highness," she said, bowing her head just enough to remain proper. "You come to inspect your cake." "I come to inspect my accomplices," he answered. He walked over to the table, breathing in the warm, sweet air. "It smells like courage," he said. "It smells like eggs," Donna Rosa replied. "Do you intend to eat it or only speak poetically to it?" "I intend to cut it myself," he said, "if you will allow me." Donna Rosa blinked. "A prince with a knife in my kitchen," she mused. "We are truly living in strange times." She nodded. "You may cut the cake," she said, "but you will not ruin it. Lucia, give him a proper knife. Not that dull thing Carlo uses to slice his pride." Lucia fetched the best knife, her hands steady now. Alessandro took it. Their fingers brushed. A small private current passed between them. "Tonight," he said quietly, so only she and Donna Rosa could hear, "we correct something that has been wrong for too long. Are you ready?" "No," Lucia said honestly. "But I will stand." He smiled, and there was pride in his eyes. "That is all I ask," he said. By evening, the kitchen was transformed. The long tables had been cleared. The lamps were all lit. The cake stood in the center on a plain wooden board, taller and smoother than Lucia's first attempt, but with something of the same heart. The servants came in gradually, murmuring, Teresa, Carlo, Anna, and Marta. The stable boys, still smelling faintly of hay. The maids from the upper floors, their faces curious. Even the scullery girls, hands scrubbed for the occasion. At the far end of the room, the master of the house stood with Signora Rinaldi and the steward. Marchese Vittorio was there too, leaning lightly on his cane, his sharp eyes missing nothing. When Alessandro entered, the murmurs quieted. He wore no crown, no heavy decoration, only a simple dark coat, his hair slightly disordered, as if he had run his hands through it one too many times. He looked not like a distant figure from a coin, but like the man who had sat at a kitchen table and shared a crooked slice of cake. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice clear but not grand. "I know you are tired. The day has been long." A ripple of nervous laughter ran through the room. Everyone was always tired. He let it pass, then continued. "I asked you to gather here because I did not wish the only voices in this house to be whispers in dark corners," he said. "We live together under one roof. We breathe the same air. We should be able to look one another in the eye when something must be said." He glanced toward the master, who gave a small, encouraging nod. "You all know," Alessandro went on, "that there have been dumb stories circulating in this house. Stories about me, about one of you, about a night in this very kitchen." Eyes shifted, bodies tensed. "I will not pretend those stories did not happen," he said. "I will not pretend that no one spoke of them. I know you did. It is human to talk, to guess, to embroider." He paused. "But when guesses wound someone's honor, they cease to be harmless," he said more quietly. "And when a house's first instinct is to cast out the wounded rather than bind the wound, something is wrong." He turned to face Lucia fully. "Lucia Bianchi," he said, "will you come here?" The world seemed to tilt for a moment. Teresa gave Lucia a gentle push. "Go," she whispered. "Your legs still work." Lucia stepped forward, each pace feeling longer than the last. She stopped near the table, feeling dozens of eyes on her. Her hands were cold, but her back was straight. Alessandro looked at her with that steady warmth she had come to recognize. "In this house," he said, now speaking to everyone again, "a young woman baked herself a small cake on her birthday because no one else knew the day was hers. She lit a single candle. She made a wish. She did this quietly, not to attract anyone's notice, but to comfort herself." He smiled faintly. "I happened to see the light," he went on. "I went down. I asked to share a slice. We talked. We laughed. Nothing more. No sin. No shame. Yet from that simple kindness, 1,000 tales were born. Tales that grew big enough to cost her her position." He looked around the room. "That was unjust," he said firmly. "I have said this to the master, to the Marchese, to my family. I say it now to you. Lucia Bianchi has done nothing dishonorable. If there is any fault in what happened, it is mine, for not understanding sooner what my presence in a kitchen at midnight would mean for her." There was a small movement near the back. Carlo shifted, eyes shining with guilt. Alessandro continued. "From this day," he said, "no one in this house will speak of that night as if it were a scandal. If you must talk, speak of it as what it was. A lonely birthday made less lonely by a slice of cake and a conversation." Donna Rosa sniffed loudly. "And a decent cake," she muttered. "Do not forget that part." Laughter eased the room. Signora Rinaldi stepped forward a little. "I confirm what His Highness has said," the housekeeper declared. "Lucia has worked well. I erred in how I handled the matter. I ask you all to put away the gossip that has flown on your tongues. It has done harm enough." Lucia's eyes widened. Not even in her brightest moments of imagining had she pictured Signora Rinaldi speaking so publicly in her favor. Marchese Vittorio's gaze flickered, approving. Alessandro turned back to the cake. "There is another reason we are here," he said. "When I met Lucia, I learned that she had never once heard the words we say so easily to those we claim to care about. No one had ever told her, 'Happy birthday.'" He reached into his pocket and drew out a small candle, new and unburned. He set it in the center of the cake. "Tonight is not her birthday," he said. "But perhaps that is better. Tonight is not just her night, it is ours. A chance to remember that each of us carries a quiet day inside that no one else knows. A day that says, 'I began, I exist, I matter.'" He nodded to Donna Rosa. "May I borrow a light?" he asked. The cook handed him a taper. He lit it from the nearest lamp and touched the small flame to the candle. It caught, flickered, and steadied. He gestured to Lucia. "Will you join me?" he asked. "It seems unfair that you should blow out a candle alone again." Her throat was too tight to speak, so she simply stepped closer. They stood side by side, faces lit by the small flame. "For all the lonely birthdays we have carried," he said quietly, "let us make a new wish." "What shall we wish?" she whispered. He smiled. "That no one in this house will ever eat their cake alone again," he said. "That will do, I think." He held up his hand and counted softly. 1, 2, 3. Together they blew. The candle went out. The room burst into applause, hesitant at first, then strong. Lucia laughed through her tears. Alessandro waited for the clapping to fade, then raised his hand again. "There is one more thing," he said, and his voice changed. Softer, deeper. The room quieted at once. "I have spoken of her as a servant of this house," he said, "but that is not all she is to me." Lucia's heart hammered. He turned to her fully, the whole room forgotten for a moment. "Lucia," he said, "on that first night, you wished to be seen. I have seen you. Not only your work, your courage, your loneliness, your stubborn honesty, your laughter, your temper, your way of holding yourself together when the world pulls you apart." He took a breath. "I have spoken to my father," he went on. "To the Marchesi, to those who think they hold the threads of my future in their hands. I have told them that my heart is not a coin to be traded for alliances. I have told them that I wish to walk through my life with you at my side, not hidden in the shadows behind me." Murmurs swelled, then fell again. Lucia stood perfectly still. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the small tremor in his own hands. "I do not offer you a fairy tale," he said softly. "I cannot promise that everyone will rejoice. Some will object, some will sneer, some will never understand. Our days will not always be easy, but I can promise you that I will stand between you and the worst of it when I can, and beside you when I cannot. I can promise that I will not be ashamed of you in kitchens or palaces, and I can promise that I will love you as long as I know how to draw breath." He reached into his coat and brought out a simple ring of gold. No jewel, no flourish, just a plain circle gleaming in the lamplight. "This was my grandmother's," he said. "She was not born to a throne either. She married above her station, and the world did not end. It simply learned a new shape." He held the ring out, not quite yet sliding it onto her hand. "Lucia Bianchi," he asked, his voice steady but thick with feeling, "will you marry me?" The kitchen held its breath. Lucia felt the weight of every gaze. She felt the weight of every fear she had ever carried. She also felt the weight of his hand extended toward her, the weight of all his choices, already made in her favor. She thought of nights alone in narrow beds, of years spent serving other people's celebrations, of one small, crooked cake and a wish whispered into smoke. She thought of the man before her, willing to break an engagement for a woman with no dowry but her dignity. She laughed once, softly, a sound of disbelief and wonder. "You ask a great deal of a girl who only wanted someone to say happy birthday," she said. "I know," he replied. "Say no, and I will still see that you are safe, if you wish it. Say yes, and we step into something no one in this room has seen before." She looked around, at Teresa, eyes shining, at Carlo, mouth open, at Anna and Marta, speechless for once, at Donna Rosa, cheeks wet, chin lifted, at Signora Rinaldi, calm and watchful, at Marchese Vittorio, whose expression was impossible to read, except for the faint curve at the corner of his mouth. She looked back at him. "Yes," she said. The word came out clear. It surprised even her, how strong it sounded. "Yes," she repeated, "I will marry you. Not because you are a prince, but because you were the only man in this house who thought a maid's birthday was worth interrupting his sleep." His face broke into the kind of smile that seemed to come from some place deeper than his lips. He took her hand and slid the ring onto her finger. It was a little loose. It didn't matter. Applause crashed over them like a wave. Donna Rosa sobbed openly. "Finally," she said, "someone in this house makes a decision worth cheering." Signora Rinaldi stepped forward, keys jingling. "Your Highness," she said, "Miss Bianchi, you have my blessing and my warning. You will need both." "Then we are well equipped," Alessandro replied. Marchese Vittorio approached slowly. "Altezza," he said, "Miss Bianchi." Lucia straightened, bracing herself. The Marchese inclined his head. "I have spent my life reading maps," he said. "Today I have seen a new one drawn in this kitchen. It is not the path I would have chosen, but I find I am curious to see where it leads. If you will allow it, I will walk a little way with you." Lucia blinked. "Thank you, Marchese," she said. He turned to the room. "You have all witnessed this," he said. "The prince's choice, the lady's answer. In years to come, you may be tempted to tell this story with extra flourishes. That is your right. But remember that the heart of it is simple. A man chose a woman he respected. A woman chose a man she trusted. The rest is seasoning. Laughter eased the tension again. Alessandro picked up the knife Donna Rosa had given him earlier. "Now," he said, "before we drown in philosophy, may we eat the cake?" "Cut it straight," Donna Rosa warned, "or I shall rescind my blessing." He looked at Lucia. "Together?" he asked. She nodded. They laid their hands on the handle, fingers intertwining, and pressed down. The knife slid through, clean and sure. He handed her the first slice. "It is your right," he said. She shook her head. "No," she replied. "Tonight we share from the beginning." She broke the slice in two, offered him half, and took the other herself. "One bite," she said, "for the girl who ate alone, and one," he answered, taking his portion, "for the man who thought duty and loneliness were the same thing." They ate. It tasted of sugar and flour and something new that had no name yet. Around them, the staff began to laugh, to talk, to reach for plates. The cake vanished quickly, as all good things do. Later, when the noise had softened and people began to drift back to their duties, Lucia stood for a moment by the table, looking at the little pool of wax where the candle had been. Alessandro came to stand beside her. "Do you regret saying yes?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "I regret only that I did not bake a taller cake," she said. He laughed. "We will have larger ones," he promised, "in bigger rooms, with more candles than you will know what to wish on." She turned to him. "I think my wish will be the same each time," she said. "What wish?" he asked. "That no one under our roof will feel invisible," she replied. "Not king, not cook, not maid, not marchese. That they will all know on their day that they were born for more than carrying trays." He looked at her with a tenderness that held both admiration and awe. "You will be a very tiring wife," he said, "always asking me to see more." "You will manage," she replied. "You have good eyes. You just needed practice." He took her hand again, the ring cool against his skin. "We will practice together," he said, "every day." Years later, people would tell the story differently. Some would say that the prince fell in love with the maid the moment he saw her by the stove, her hair caught by the lamplight. Others would insist that it was the cake, that no man could resist a woman who turned scraps into sweetness. A few would claim that they had always known from the first whispered rumor that such a thing would happen. None of them would be quite right. The truth was quieter. It began with a girl who did not think her birthday was worth telling anyone. It began with a man who could not sleep. It began with a candle on a crooked cake and a wish to be seen. And it grew, step by uncertain step, into two hands joined over a knife, ready to divide something good and share it with a room full of people who were learning, perhaps for the first time, that love does not always ask permission from the rules written above it. That night, before she went to bed, Lucia placed the little wooden cross back in her trunk, alongside the comb and the book without a cover. She touched the ring on her finger and smiled. "Happy birthday," she whispered, not to herself this time, but to the life that waited ahead. Unknown, imperfect, and entirely, wonderfully shared. Thank you so much for listening to this story all the way to the end. We hope it moved you as much as it moved us while telling it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment telling us where you're listening from and what you liked the most. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as a show of support. That really motivates us to keep creating and sharing more stories full of emotion and life lessons. And before we go, we want to remind you that an exciting and heartwarming story recommendation will appear on the final screen. If you'd like to enjoy it, just click on the video. Thank you once again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.